Hi, and welcome to the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. I'm your host, Tegan Thompson. I'm a book lover, a chocoholic, and an INTJ living in a world filled with extroverts. I made this podcast to share my experiences and struggles as an introverted perfectionist, and to bring the inner workings of an introvert's mind to introverts and extroverts alike. So grab a cup of tea and get comfortable. It's time to unmute. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. I hope everyone is staying warm and probably under a ton of blankets in the really cold Minnesota weather right now. It's like been below zero for this past 3 or 4 days now, and it's just crazy. It's supposed to get to negative 20 this weekend. Ooh, that is so cold. But yeah, also this weekend is Valentine's Day. I personally don't care for Valentine's Day as a holiday, but I always love having an excuse to do something kind of a little special and eat chocolate because I love chocolate. So yeah, and I hope, whether it's with friends or family or partner or just yourself, I hope that, you'll take some time this weekend to maybe do something a little fun or a little special, kind of just treat yourself because, you deserve it. And why not take it when they provide it to you, But kind of on this topic this week, we'll be talking about how introverts love in relationships, kind of generally, so with friendships and in families, and then talk more romantically. The general will also touch on romantic stuff. The general is for any type of relationship, and then kind of focus more in on romantic relationships specifically. So yeah, let's just dive on in. The first thing I want to say is that whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, so for everyone listening, it is always, 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 always so important to take the time to learn the love language of the people you surround yourself with. So friends, family, romantic relationships, any type of person that you are having a deep connection and relationship with, take the time to get to know their love language and get to know your love language as well. I say this because knowing your love language and knowing other people's love language around you, it makes it so much easier to have better communication and to better understand the people around you and understand yourself even. I'm going to give you an example. So one of my love languages is physical touch. And with that, I love to give hugs. I love hugs. Hugs are so comforting, and I could just give them all day. I could sit in a hug for the rest of my life. But my sister's physical touch is not one of their love languages, and they do not like giving hugs. So with that, I'm just, I'm aware of that, and so I'm being more mindful. Okay, have I asked them for a hug today? Okay, if I have, maybe I shouldn't ask them again. If I haven't, maybe see if they look like they're in the mood to have a hug. Also just not going up and giving hugs without asking, because they really, really hate that. Obviously I'm their older sister, so sometimes I use it against them when I just want to annoy them a little bit, but probably shouldn't do that. But since I'm their older sister, it's okay, right? But yeah, so knowing those things about people, so love language can be physical touch. It can be quality time. It can be acts of service. There are 2 other ones that are not coming to mind for me right now, but there's a ton of quizzes if you want to go out there and take some, just to kind of understand what your love language is, and you can ask the other people around you to take it too. They're usually very short, and so very, very easy to just quickly take it and figure it out. You may already know, but then once you know, make sure you communicate those things, because once people communicate them, you can, again, understand better. My youngest sister, she's really funny. Our family kind of jokes with her that she has a cold heart because she doesn't show a lot of emotion often. And so sometimes you're like, can't you just like say I love you or give me a hug or something, just show me some affection? And then I had asked my whole family to take a quiz to find out what their love language was, and we found out that hers was acts of service. And I just like wanted to do like a hand palm, to my head, because I was like, as I think back, she loves to cook dinner for our whole family, or she'll cook dessert. She loves to like do things for us, and I just never really thought, oh, this is her way of showing us that she loves us. And I just felt so stupid. I was like, it makes so much sense. But I had never considered it, because for me, physical touch and quality time are my big love languages. And I was only kind of looking at it through my point of view and not hers. And so it kind of completely changed my perspective. So that's why it's super, super, super important to do those kind of things. So for introverts in relationships, any type of relationship, who are loving, like, you love your family, you love your friends, you love yourself, you love a partner, maybe. For anyone in a relationship with an introvert, you probably know this, but it takes introverts a lot of time to let people in. And kind of the best metaphor for this is that introverts are very similar to onions, and they'll kind of like slowly peel back one layer and then another layer, and they'll keep doing this till you reach the center to reveal themselves. So they'll reveal bits and pieces of themselves, and kind of slowly build a deeper relationship. And this takes a lot of time. And when I say a lot of time, I mean a lot of time. When I transferred schools in 9th grade, it took me almost the entire school year to really build any type of friendship, because I needed to like first kind of get the feel for certain people, understand their vibes, and then slowly reveal myself. And as you peel back one layer after another, you kind of get more intimate. And when you reveal a more intimate part of yourself, you see how one reacts. And by that reaction, introverts kind of can say, okay, it's worth opening up another layer for this person, or no, I need to completely close up. And so that's kind of what the process is, and you get this with each layer. So it can take a long time. And there's very few people who actually reach the true center of an introvert. And I say true center because introverts like to put in these false centers. I have them, and I'm sure a lot of other introverts do too. to kind of give this perception that other people around them have truly gotten to know them, so that they don't have to continue to reveal themselves. And I know this might kind of seem, I don't know how to put it. It might seem like they're trying to be distant or something, but it's just like when you meet someone and you say, okay, well, I don't want to fully open up myself to them because I can't trust them with who I truly am. And so you kind of just say, okay, you're going to stop here, and I'm going to make you feel like, I'm going to make it seem like this is all there is to me. So, there are false centers, but there are those select few who get to reach the true center. And those people who reach the true center, they will always have a place in the introvert's heart. There's like almost like no going back. Once you reach the true center, you can't close back up. And this is true for pretty much the rest of an introvert's life, and no matter what happens in that relationship. So I have had friends who I've gotten really close with, and I've kind of let them reach that true center, and now we don't really talk anymore, but they are still one of the most important people in my life, and they will always have a place in my heart. I love them dearly, and I wish them the very, very best, and I have no hard feelings for them. Like, they were like a sister to me, and they still feel like a sister to me, and sometimes you just need that space before you reconnect, or maybe you don't, but there's always like gonna be that space for somebody. And so that's what introverts have, is like they kind of have that space once you reach a true center, and you maintain that space. Another thing for introverts who are in relationships where they love people is that, well, this is kind of a very general thing, but I want to talk about this for relationships because it can be a little confusing, is that introverts just don't really like to be the center of attention. Like, almost never. And because of this, it can be really difficult to talk about ourselves. I know for me it is. I really don't. It's not that I'm uncomfortable. It's just like I don't care to talk about myself. And again, this can kind of go back to the onion reference. Like, okay, slowly peeling back the layers. So you can kind of, at first, talking less about yourself, and then maybe talking more about yourself as you get deeper into the connection. But yeah, I've talked about this in a previous episode, but introverts like to learn about other people. So if we're always talking about ourselves, then we are not really learning anything new. We don't get to learn about other people, and so we don't really care about that. And so introverts will often show interest by talking about others. So I do this with my family, I do this with my friends, like I do this a lot. I'll be like, oh, what's your opinion? Or what do you think about this? Or what do you believe about this? Or what's going on in your life? And kind of just get to understand them. And I'll probably share my opinions and my beliefs and the things going on in my life along the way, but putting a main focus on the other person because I want to learn about you. And if you're someone who I'm in a relationship, if you're my friend, or if you're a family member, or if you're my partner, like, you are someone I want to learn about deeply, and I'm very curious and very interested in that, and so I'm going to show it through that and by talking less about myself. And why this may seem weird is because from the outside perspective, it may almost feel like the introvert doesn't want to open up, or that they're not interested, because a lot of the time people, they kind of judge where they are in a relationship with someone based on how much they know about someone or how much someone is willing to talk about themselves. But for introverts, they don't want to be that center of attention, and they don't really care about talking about themselves. And so it's kind of a little counterintuitive for that. And so just being aware of that and knowing that, obviously the closer you are to an introvert, if you ask them about themselves, it's not like they're going to be like, no, we don't talk about me. We can talk about you, but not me. No, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I think this, or this is happening in my life, or blah, blah, blah. And then obviously they're going to try and bring it back to you in some way, but they will share those things. So, asking is always a great idea if you want to learn more about an introvert. And so the last thing I have on kind of like the general list for introverts in relationships is that when introverts love someone, they are very willing to step out of their comfort zone for them. And by this, I mean they're more willing to be extroverted. So if, you're like best friends with an introvert, you know each other super well, and you just have this really close connection, and you're like, hey, let's go to this party. Normally, if it was someone else asking, the introvert's gonna be like, no, thank you. I'll just stay in my room and I'll read for the night. You go have fun at the party then. But if you're this close friend and they say, hey, let's go to this party, then the introvert would be like, okay, yeah, I can do that, because more than likely it's gonna be a once in a while kind of thing. And they're doing this for someone that they love and they care about and they want to be happy, so they're going to be more extroverted in this way. And this goes for any type of large group or social gathering type of thing. Introverts will be more willing to attend those things. And along with this is that often introverts will need less time to re-energize after being around people that they love and care about, and they will be able to spend greater lengths of time with them. And I've touched on this before in a previous episode, but for example, if I go to, I don't know, let's say when I went to school and I had to do some sort of study group kind of thing with people that I wasn't super close with, and we did that for maybe an hour or two, and we were talking and going over things and blah blah blah. After that, I might need the rest of the night and the next day to just like recover from that, because it like drained me. But when I'm with my family or when I'm with really close friends, I can spend, honestly, well, it kind of depends, but I can spend at least a full day with them before needing to like spend some time by myself. And re-energizing might look more like a couple hours instead of a whole day. So there's kind of just that more extroverted side of it, being able to also gain energy from the people you love and care about around you. And with this, introverts will also be more aware of the extroverts in their lives, who like to be in conversation all the time. And so they might start small talk with the people around them, if kind of just like go silent. So like normally an introvert would be like, silence, great, I love it, let me stay in this, I don't want to talk, kind of thing. And an extrovert's going to want to start talking, so they might start some small talk, But with people that an introvert loves and cares about, they will start that small talk because they know that makes their loved one more comfortable and feel loved. And so they'll start this small talk, but they'll usually start this small talk with the intention of digging deeper and going into a more deep conversation. I know I do this sometimes. And this can be as simple as asking someone about their day, and then they share something and you're like, oh, tell me more about this. And with my family, these can lead to amazing tangents that you don't even know how you got there, but they just like totally have nothing to do with what you started the conversation with. So yes, introverts will start the small talk, but they always have in the back of their mind the intention of getting into a deeper conversation. So that's kind of the things I have on my general list. I only have one thing really on the romantic list, because introverts tend to be fairly consistent across relationships, in the way that they show love, and move into loving connections. So the one thing I have on my list for romantic relationships specifically is the introverts have this respect for individuality. And I want to just point this out really quickly. I put this on the romantic list specifically and not on the general one because I believe fully that in any type of relationship, but I'll talk specifically about friendships and families, that you should never try to change someone, or force them to believe things that you believe in, or any of that kind of thing. There should always be this individuality. You should always be yourself, and never feel like you have to be someone else or something else for a friend or a family member. And I say this because in romantic relationships, it's a little more difficult to be drastically different, especially when it comes to things like beliefs, because it puts a lot of strain on relationships, and there's always kind of this need to compromise. But compromising does not mean sacrificing your individuality. And I think a lot of people know this. I hope a lot of people know this. But I know introverts truly value and respect this, because they know they are unique and different and like to be themselves and don't want to change for anyone else. And they don't expect that from anyone else. So in romantic relationships, introverts want their partners to remain truly to themselves and who they are. And they do this by, obviously introverts like having their own time, so they value this alone time in this space, for themselves and for their partner, whether that's physically, or kind of just like more emotionally, not emotionally necessarily, but just kind of like lifestyle wise. So Like maybe you need your own group of friends. That's okay. You need your own activity to do on your own, like a sport or an art or a hobby or something that your partner doesn't partake in. That's totally okay. And I think those are things that introverts truly value. And valuing the space and alone time does not mean that introverts are distant from their partner. It just means that they understand that sometimes people need space and need to know that they are their own person apart from this relationship. And that's okay, because there are two people in a relationship. It's not a half and a half to make a whole. It's two people coming together. So that's why it's so important, in my opinion, and I know that it's not necessarily true for everyone, but valuing that is a very big thing for introverts, especially since they often need it for themselves. In addition to this, respecting individuality is that introverts look to help their partner grow personally, whether that might be in their career, in their education, in their spiritual life, in their mental, emotional life, physical life, whatever it is. And it can obviously be more than one of those things. But introverts want to help the growth of their partner so that they can expand and become the best and greatest version of themselves that they want to be. In addition to this, introverts seek the same in return. And they want to have a partner who will help them grow also in the areas that they desire to expand in. So, yeah. Just briefly, I have kind of like some things that introverts are attracted to in romantic relationships. And the three big things are often intelligence and deep connection, which kind of both stem off of these deep conversations that introverts like to have. Introverts, when you have deep conversation, they will build that deeper connection with someone, and also engaging in deep conversation that kind of stimulates their brain so that they're thinking and learning at the same time. And that's kind of where the intelligence parts come in. And then also being attracted to patience. And this stems off of kind of how introverts slowly open up to people. And someone who is patient and willing to wait to really get to know someone, especially an introvert, is such a beautiful thing. I love it. And someone who's patient like that is very attractive. So yeah, that's kind of all I have. Before I end this episode, I do want to say that I really, really would love if you guys asked me questions. If you have questions about introverts, you have questions about perfectionists, or kind of just any general question that you want to ask, I would love to answer it. You can message me through my social media, which I will put the links in the description of this episode. And, I might turn some of them into episodes, or I'll just message you back personally. But whatever it is, reach out to me and ask questions. I, built this podcast to help people understand introverts and perfectionists. And so, if there's any questions that I'm not touching on yet that you want to know more about, go ahead and reach out to me. I would love, love, love to answer your questions. So on that note, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. If you learned anything or you enjoyed this episode, please go share it with a friend. And as always, have a good weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again next week on the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast.